Another question.
I'm sorry, you probably get asked this a gazillion times, but why did you kill off Lynley's wife?
Why did I kill off Lynley's wife? That was an artistic decision, and it has to do with series literature. That when you create a series, you have, first of all, when you set it up, the first decision you make is, do you want to freeze your characters in time, place, and circumstance, the way Agatha Christie froze Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple in time, place, and circumstance. What that means is the character is always the same age, same description, same life circumstances, nothing really changes. That's one option. Or do you want to have your character move forward in time, slowly or rapidly, whichever you want? Well, I decided that I wanted to have my character move forward in time because those are the kind of books that I wanted to write. When you do that, then your choice is, do you want the character to have same old as he's moving through forward in time? In other words, like, there's always this character and he's got this girlfriend and they, sometimes they get together and then they're apart, then they're together, then they're apart. And then that gets really frustrating. So I decided, no, I didn't want to do that. I really wanted to have things change and develop in the lives of these characters. Okay, so when you do that, you have to create a circumstance where you're always opening their stories up, not closing the stories down. When Lynley married Helen, after several books of pursuing her and misunderstandings, and Helen coming to terms with really a basic sense of her own kind of unworthiness and not really having made much of her life. So once that was all resolved and she marries him, and then she gets pregnant, and then they have the issues and whatever is resolved, and that's resolved. Okay, so now I have a situation where Lynley's story is starting to close down. And then she's pregnant, she's going to have a baby. Well, the thing about the babies is that there is, you name a dramatic baby in literature. Name any baby in literature that you walk away from remembering the baby, and you'll understand the problem you have with working a baby into a story, is that there really isn't any drama involved in having a baby, unless Lynley has his bespoke suit on and he lifts the baby up and the baby vomits on him or something, and then he's got to change his clothes before he goes to work or something like that. So there's no inherent drama in a baby. So that means if she has the baby, then one of two things has to happen. Either three things. The baby dies, the baby's kidnapped, or the baby develops a terrible disease. See, and then you've got that. Then you have something to work with. Okay, but then you've got to work with that for a while. And so that's the decision. The decision is, okay, what do I do now? Do I bring in another character, which would also open up the plot? Or do I eliminate a character, which also opens things up? And I decided that the best thing to do was to eliminate a character, and the character I chose was Helen. Now, I eliminated her I knew I was going to have to eliminate her for quite some time before I got to the book that I eliminated her in. And because I had to find a book where it fit into the whole. It fit into thematically, it made perfect sense. And when I got to this serial killer novel, it made sense. I knew that I finally had my vehicle, because I knew that the reader would likely believe that Helen was killed by the serial killer. Once in that book, David Hillier, the superior officer, embeds a journalist in with the police because they're getting such terrible press about this serial killer that they're not able to catch. And Lynley is so furious at that he does not want this guy doing stories on all of his policemen, and so he says that the first story is going to be about him. The guy does the story about Lynley, and then Lynley's wife is killed. And he thinks, of course, that the serial killer sees the story, knows who Lynley is, finds the wife and kills her. And that's what I figured that the reader would think, only I knew that wasn't what I was going to do. That would be one of these horrible random street killings. Now, that's the decision that I make, but for the book to work, then, if I've invited the reader to share in Lynley's life for 16 books, that means that I've invited the reader to care about Thomas Lynley. That means the reader needs to care in some degree when Lynley's wife dies, because you're saying to the reader, I'm inviting you to experience this character's life, and he's going to be devastated, therefore you must share in his devastation in some respect. And so when readers were really upset by her death, I think the reason they were upset is because it was written in such a way that it drew from them a really strong emotion, which is exactly what I wanted it to do, because it wouldn't have worked. I always say to people, look, if at the end of that book you threw it over your shoulder, went to the refrigerator and made a bologna sandwich, it would not have been a success. But if at the end of that book you felt just devastated by what he had gone through, then it was a success. And people generally understand the whole thing when I explain it that way, when I explain that, so it's like the artistic decision. And I also felt that readers, while they would be upset, they would, I hoped, would trust me enough to know that this was part of a bigger picture.